What's up, world? My name is Marlon Anthony. Welcome to the very first inaugural episode of our podcast. We're going live. Joining me today, I've got a very special brother, friend, guest, my man Austin Parker, a.k.a. AP, the Scattered Joy Project. What's going on, good sir?
Yes, sir. Not much, bro. Not much. Feeling blessed. We at Marvin's. All the vibes are here. Feeling blessed, bro.
We're trying our best.
All the vibes.
We're trying our best. I wanted to make this podcast, and when we talk about a lot of things going on and everything being ours, and really wanted to make the focus on providing education resources or just raising awareness about things that affect us as a community and how we can address them, whether it's from entrepreneurship, finances, general health. But, one thing that I think now is probably gaining momentum every day, and every day it's becoming more and more prevalent, is our mental health. And so this season we're focused on mental health. I know you guys are doing some phenomenal work over at Scattered Joy Project. So tell the people a little bit about what you guys do and how you do it.
Yeah, so the Scattered Joy Project is a nonprofit, and we raise a lot of funds that go into paying for people's therapy sessions. And also, providing visibility and providing resources so people can have free and reduced therapy. We do that in a lot of ways. We have community events. Mm-hmm. We sell merchandise like this that are also talking pieces. That's why I really, really love them. Like I said, all those proceeds go to help funding these sessions and broadcast more visibility on mental health and try to defeat the stigma. Another big thing we do is build community. We build community through philanthropic opportunities so we can go and serve together. And then also community events. We've had some dope ones where we bring like live paintings, different artists, singers, and creatives who lend their talents, but also tell them about their mental health journey, which I think is super, super important.
Definitely is. I think the part that is so impressive is I see you guys everywhere. You got the merch, you got the podcast, your website is dope. So you guys are really out in the community and really out in front of people, just showing them the amazing work that you do and raising awareness about mental health.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Scattered Joy and kind of how this whole opportunity, this platform, your group got started and how it came to be doing this great work.
Yeah, so it was a dope opportunity that was brought to me by the founder. Shout out Zach Thompson. He's killing it, doing incredible work. But we met at a church and we were doing some youth ministry. So he got me to help him do that, and he was the lead there. But I think a big thing that we're really heading to is like marketplace ministry. Mm-hmm. And that's being able to serve others, not in the traditional church setting, which I think is really, really important, because everyone you're going to help might not ever step into a church. So he wanted to do something that involved the community that was outside of those four walls. And this was kind of his brainchild. So he sent me the idea for the shirt. I said, I thought it was very, very dope. And like I said, it's a huge talking piece. So every time we would wear the shirts, every time I would wear the shirts, people would say, yo, that's a dope shirt. Like, what is Scattered Joy? And that's a perfect time for us to tell them about what we're trying to do in our efforts in the community.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I was like, it's always good to have a talking piece, something that gathers people's attention without you having to go out and say, hey, look at me, I'm doing this.
Absolutely.
It's easier when people ask you. Even here at Marvin's, people are like, Marvin's, like, that's a creative name. Like, how'd you get into that? And we kind of go into the backstory, which is a different story for a different day. But
different podcast.
Different podcast. Just cool things like that. And I think you hit on a very critical touch point of, you guys are addressing it. You guys are raising awareness in a non-traditional way, in very community-based, very social ways.
Absolutely.
Everybody's not ready to go into a therapist's office and say, you know what, today I'm ready to start treatment. How did you guys kind of land on that, or what made you kind of think of that, non-traditional approach?
I'd say Zach is a creative in himself. He's an incredible writer. Anything he tries to deliver to the world, he wants to do it from a creative's lens, in a way to tell a story as well. I'd say mental health isn't the sexiest thing in the world. So if we had a mental health like forum discussion or a luncheon, we wouldn't get a lot of participants, especially people who look like us. So we want to do it in different ways to really get people to come in and rally around it. With physical health, who's been taking a lot of advances lately, there's a byproduct that's very visible, right? If I work out, I will look good. Mm-hmm. If I look better, I might get some girls. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's a thing like that. But mental health is the work that's internal.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize the real glow up, the real transformation always starts internally. So we want to do it from a creative way to get people coming in, because it doesn't sound like the most fun and riveting thing. And people are like, are we just going to be venting the whole time? Like, do I have to share? You know, different things like that. So we want to kind of not really catch people off guard, but put them in a safe, cool, creative space to be able to feel the community of mental health, and to realize that whatever they're going through, they're not in it alone, and there's more people who are going through it as well.
Yeah, I think that's critical, and I think especially as we talk about, you know, our focus is really African Americans, Black people, and particularly Black men.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell us, because we're so guarded, we kind of have this armor up. If you tell us to come to a forum and come sit around in a circle and really express ourselves, that's not going to be something that we're really, really looking forward to do. So I think, you know, finding very unique ways for us to be engaged, finding unique ways for us to be able to come out and support, or even be able to say, hey, okay, I'm not sure why I feel like I need to go, but I know I'm dealing with something, and I know I need to be around some support. Tell me about how, you know, that works with dealing with, you know, African Americans and just dealing with Black men in general, and kind of how we service some of our needs on a mental health standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important for Black men, because a lot of times we build ourselves on what we do, and we build ourselves on accomplishments and this bravado, like you said. And building community allows us to put those walls down.
Yep.
Because if I'm in a room full of, you know, former college athletes, or if I'm in a room full of creatives, or if I'm in a room full of people who go to my church, or, you know, common interest in different things, can really bridge the gap. Mm-hmm. And that can set the stage for that transparency that needs to happen. I've dealt with a lot of things very quietly, and didn't tell a lot of people growing up. So I'm thinking if we can cultivate this atmosphere where you can ask your friend, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. And they really tell you. It's not the surface level thing, and you can really check in with friends, and you can really build community based off of not just our physical health, but our mental health. We'll be able to take strides as a community, and you personally. You know, it says a lot to be able to be that space for someone as well.
Yes, sure.
As a trainer, I get the most fulfillment out of the mental transformations. We had a girl, Michaela, shout out to Michaela. She had panic attacks. And when she started training, like, there was a lot of times she would have to pull her car over just because she was so overwhelmed. After she started working out, those subsided, and now she doesn't even have them. So being that safe space, being that, like, I'm not a therapist, no, but I was able to give her exercise and also somebody to talk to during that process. Mm-hmm. So you being that person for someone else can also bring joy to your heart as well.
I agree. I think you hit on a very critical point. And the power of community, and building community, and how building community really is a skill. And I think sometimes we build communities and we don't even realize we're really building a community.
Facts.
And those communities help service our mental health, whether we built that community to do that or indirectly to do that. So you talk about things like, you know, working out together, playing basketball, just having people who you hang around who help make you feel safe or that you're comfortable with. And that often involves them to being able to say, oh, hey, man, I'm going through this, or hey, I'm feeling like that.
Yeah.
I know I'm here to work out, but man, let me tell you about this issue I'm going through, my relationship with my finances. So the power of community and being able to be around people that you can relate to, people that look like you, because we all bond over commonalities. Black people being around Black people, you know what I'm saying? People are being around those of the same sex, people who are from the same hometown, the same city. We build upon those things and we bond over those things. So they are very critical, especially, like you said, mental health is not a sexy topic to always talk about. So any head start in any niche we can kind of get into to make it acceptable or make it like feel like you can go ahead and share is good. And I know me personally, just dealing with some of my own issues, it's like I started discovering these things and sharing these things more so in spaces where I felt safe around others who I built community with. Tell me a little bit about your own kind of mental health like journey. Like, how did you kind of realize and say, hey, I know I'm dealing with something, or how did you begin to address it?
Yeah, man. So it was taking self-inventory. I got to the point where I was feeling so bad for so long that I had to reach out. And you don't want to have to wait for a health crisis to get your health in order. You don't have to wait until you're having a suicidal ideation, like I did in college. You don't want to have to wait until you're like at the bottom of the barrel. But sometimes that's when that realization happens. So I waited till then, and it was hard for me to open up. So it took a while. I was sitting in that space for a long time in isolation, in a silo, because growing up, the worst thing you could be was soft.
Yep.
And soft in our neighborhood means emotional. And you don't want to show those emotions. I had a bravado. I was like the captain of my basketball team. I was tough. I was in the weight room. I didn't want people to know that there was a chink in my armor. And a lot of times, like, basketball and like toughness and all this is what gave me like my self-love, right? And then it actually started affecting my play, my mental health affected my play, because then I was overthinking. And then you can't overthink playing a game or doing anything that is very natural for you. Once you start overthinking it, it's out the window. And once I wasn't able to put my validation into my sport, I went to a small D2 school. We didn't have 10,000 people cheering for us each game. Like, bro, it was whoever was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it for girls. Wasn't no girls in West Virginia. I wasn't doing it. It wasn't for clout. It was, do I love the game or do I not? And it was very, very difficult for me. So I got into that point, and then I reached out to a counselor. And the first thing he did, he told me to write down 10 things that I was grateful for. And it's a great exercise to just shift your perspective. We have enough storms in our life for us to be very, very sad and depressed and down in the dumps. Everyone does.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if that's all you focus on, that's all you see. There's a lot of storms in our life, but we've got to focus on the good, and that's what he did for me. He gave me a list, something that was very visual, and we did it a lot of different times, and I couldn't just stop at 10. I could never stop at 10. He did a great job of changing my perspective and also helping me realize that it starts with self-love, right?
For sure.
It starts with self-love, and then accomplishments and new levels and different things like that come in result of self-love, not the opposite way around. Like, it's not like I can achieve my way to love. I can't earn my way to self-love, because that's a cycle that's going to keep repeating.
Yeah.
It has to start with me loving and accepting exactly who I am, and then the accomplishment and everything like that, it'll come after for sure.
For sure. I think that's a very good point. I know we talked about it earlier, saying like this is, our focus is really 25 to 40. That's where, we kind of identify and where we see a lot of the issues and people who are, still in that realm where mental health wasn't even a discussion topic, in high school and college. And I think even just looking at my college experience, or even Will, a lot of us go to these colleges where we're very isolated, we're very much the minority. And so when we're dealing with things, we have to suppress them even more because we don't feel like anybody can relate to what we're going through or where we've come from or how we're dealing with it. And I know me, like some of my deepest, darkest times, I can pinpoint every year of college, something being like a very much detriment to my mental health.
For sure.
Financially, relationships, sports related, socially related, whatever it is. And so really just taking the time to identify and say, hey, self-check,
Absolutely.
checking with myself. How am I doing? How am I feeling? What am I thankful for? Is very valuable.
Major key.
I encourage everybody to take some time for you, at least once a week, and just really sit down and decompress and journal and write it down and take time to look back at where you were the week before, the next day, or whatever it is. And you'll get to see like, okay, here's where I'm kind of going wrong at, or here's where I'm being affected at, and how do I change that dynamic?
And it'll change your perspective, because if you talk about like in the journaling, I remember last week somebody loaned me $40. That's a reason to be grateful. And you can't forget. You can't go through life so tunnel vision that you forget the times that God blessed you or brought you out of a situation. You can never forget, because that same God, I'm not trying to preach, but that same God who took you from point A to point C can definitely take you from point D to infinity. just because it's the same guy. It's just a different level.
Yep.
No, new levels, new devils. So like we can't forget that like, hey, there was a time where I was sad, but I got out of that. So I think journaling can really put it on paper so we can remember and we can have that thought. Like it wasn't always good, but I'm better than I was last year. I'm better than I was 5 months ago. And that's a reason to have joy.
Yeah, I think that's the part people really got to realize is it's a process.
Yeah.
There is no end destination. And acknowledging your different stops along that process. So, not to make it a spiritual podcast, but, I pray every day and I say, I'm thankful for who I've become and for God bringing me from who I am. And I think you have to realize in certain aspects, we've all been in a place where we're like, woo, I'm glad I'm not that person anymore because I was down bad, or I was just not the best. I was not the best character, or the best, the version of me. And like you said, even looking at situations to say, okay, what resources do we have around us that can help us be a better version of ourselves? I think it just starts with acknowledging. And I think two, it starts with going to things like BetterHelp. I know Psychology Today is a great resource.
Yeah.
I know Franklin County Job and Family Services has a mental health support website to get you connected. And while therapy may not be the end all be all answer, you should at least experience it once by talking to a professional.
Give it a try.
Give it a try.
They're pros for a reason.
Yeah.
You might unlock something in your brain that really can change your life forever. And like you said, it's not an end destination. Even if you're going through a healing journey, people are like, oh, you have to be healed to be in a relationship with me. You have to be fully healed. I don't think anybody's fully healed. Mm-hmm. We can heal from a situation, but deep down inside of us, like there's still remnants.
It's a little scab.
You know what I mean? So we got to make sure that therapy, talking to someone, checking in are still practices that we utilize, even if we consider ourselves healed, because like there's always trauma.
For sure.
There's always going to be things that we endure, but if we don't have this, then we can't really navigate it the way we should.
For sure. Go ahead and wrap it up. Last words, final thoughts. I want you to make sure you have time to shout out Scatter Joy and the website and where people can find you guys and how they can support.
Absolutely. And we talked about like equity, and we talked about a lot of things with defeating the stigma. I think a great way for us to do our part is to scatter joy, bro. And as cliche as it sounds, the only thing you can do is your part, mm-hmm. right? And we have to become the change that we want to see in the world, regardless if it's in our industry, in our family, in our friend group, in our peer group. We have to be that light. So if you are blessed enough to be a light, to be positive, spread that joy along to others. That can be doing small good deeds. That can be being that friend,
yep.
That you need in those situations. Any of that. So I think our biggest thing for Scatter Joy, just being the change that we want to see in the world. You can go to scatterjoy.com to find resources for therapy that you want to tap into. You can buy merch. All merchandise goes to help funding people's therapy sessions, which I think is absolutely incredible. We have a lot of different events, a lot of charitable and philanthropic things that we have coming up. So you guys can serve with us, and that's always a great way to scatter joy. And a lot of times, like what we say is the best way to feel joy is to scatter it. So we'll go out and we'll pass out roses, or we'll serve, or we'll do different charitable actions, because the fulfillment that you get from that is bar none. So be on the lookout. We got some new merch coming out in a couple of weeks as well. AP Fit, we have boot camp classes Monday nights, 6:30 p.m., Saturday mornings, 10 a.m.
Yes, sir.
We always end with positive affirmations. You can't just be physically strong, got to be mentally and spiritually fit as well. Scatter Joy on Instagram, AP Fit on Instagram, and all other platforms. But yes, sir.
My God, I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
A few last key takeaways. Make sure you make time for you.
Yes.
I was having a conversation today. My brother O Sharp, shout out to him. This is very impromptu and off the cuff and not in my notes, but we talked about, what does self-love and self-care look like. It looks like making time for you to be the best version of you, whether it's working out, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's drinking water, eating a healthy meal, whatever you need to do to maintain with a healthy version of you, make sure you set aside time for that and make it a non-negotiable. I think your coworkers will appreciate it, your significant others, your kids, whoever it is, but most importantly, you. And so with that being said, shout out to Torp. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Marvin's Restaurant Lounge. Come here and eat, 460 South Front Street. And then we'll see you guys in the future on our podcast. Peace and love.
Gas, set it on fire. Remember when I crashed, when I pulled out Elijah's. Totaled the whip, thank God I'm a survivor. My baby mama with me told the cops she the driver. That's real love, fuck her Instagram.